The 14th of February, 1933, Valentine's Day in Harlem. But love was the furthest thing from anyone's mind. Bumpy Johnson descended into the Cotton Club basement, knowing he might never see daylight again. 12 men waited in the shadows. Dutch Schultz's deadliest crew. Tommy, the executioner Torino, Vince, the Vise Benedetto, Marty, Icepick Delaney. 9 others whose names even the police didn't know. They had one job: kill Bumpy Johnson and send Harlem a message written in blood. 90 minutes later, only one man crawled out of that basement alive, and the message he delivered to Dutch Schultz made the most feared mobster in New York go pale as winter snow. The room was darker than a grave, lit only by a single bulb swinging from a frayed wire. Crates of bootleg whiskey stacked like tombstones, the smell of fear and cheap cologne hanging in the air like incense at a funeral. Bumpy stood in the center, hands at his sides, face calm as Sunday morning. He looked around slowly, counting 12 guns, 12 killers, 12 men who'd collectively ended more lives than a plague. That all Dutch sent? Bumpy asked quietly. Tommy stepped forward, his smile sharp as broken glass. More than enough for one dead man walking. He raised his Thompson submachine gun. Dutch sends his regards. But here is what Dutch Schultz didn't understand about Bumpy Johnson. The young enforcer hadn't survived Harlem's streets by luck or accident. He'd survived because he understood something most men never learned. Violence has a rhythm, and whoever controls that rhythm wins, standing there outnumbered 12-1. Bumpy wasn't calculating his chances of survival. He was calculating their chances of making it out alive. "You are making a mistake," Bumpy said, his voice cutting through the basement's silence like a blade through silk. "What mistake?" Tommy snarled. "You are about to be dead." Bumpy tilted his head slightly, studying Tommy like a chess master studying the board. "The mistake is thinking I came here alone." 12 guns stayed trained on him, but doubt crept into their eyes like poison in wine. Tommy glanced toward the stairs. Nothing but darkness. "You are bluffing," Tommy said, but his voice had lost its edge. Bumpy smiled for the first time since entering that basement cold, knowing dangerous. "Then shoot." Nobody shot. Because in that moment, every man in that room felt something they hadn't felt in years. Fear. Real fear. The kind that comes from realizing you've miscalculated badly, and the consequences are about to be written in your own blood. To understand what happened next, you need to understand who Bumpy Johnson was in 1933. He wasn't just another street tough with quick fists and a quicker temper. He was a strategist, a student of human nature who'd educated himself in prison, reading Shakespeare, Sun Tzu, and Machiavelli. While other enforcers relied on intimidation and brute force, Bumpy understood that the mind was the deadliest weapon of all. Tommy's finger tightened on the trigger. Last chance to beg. Instead of begging, Bumpy moved. What happened next became legend in Harlem, whispered in speakeasies and barbershops for decades. The official story, the one that made it into police reports, was chaos, confusion. A bloodbath that nobody could fully explain. But here is what really happened. Bumpy didn't go for a gun. He went for the light. One precise punch shattered the hanging bulb, plunging the basement into absolute darkness. In that instant, 12 killers became 12 blind men firing at shadows. Panic took over, training abandoned, fear ruling everything. "Hold your fire," Tommy screamed, but fear doesn't listen to orders. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness like lightning, revealing glimpses of chaos. Men shooting at sounds, at movement, at nothing. And in that darkness, Bumpy became something else entirely, a predator in his element. He knew that basement had played poker there countless times, knew every crate, every corner, every obstacle. Dutch's men didn't. They were strangers in a maze, and Bumpy was the Minotaur. One by one, they went down. Not from bullets. Bumpy was too smart to waste ammunition. He used their confusion against them. Used their panic. Used the fact that in the darkness, they were shooting each other. The violence lasted 3 minutes. 3 minutes that felt like 3 hours. Bodies hitting the floor. Screams cut short. The wet sound of bone breaking. Then silence. When the shooting stopped. When the screaming ended, when the basement finally went quiet, 11 men lay motionless on the concrete floor, broken, bleeding, some unconscious, some worse. Only Marty, Icepick Delaney, remained conscious, sitting against the wall, hyperventilating, his gun shaking in his hands like a leaf in a hurricane. Bumpy was gone, vanished like smoke. It took Marty 20 minutes to crawl up those stairs. Every step agony, broken ribs, maybe worse. He made it to the street as the sun painted the sky pink, flagged down a cab with blood-soaked bills. Bronx, he gasped. Arthur Avenue. Dutch Schultz's headquarters at 8:17 a.m. Marty stumbled into Dutch's social club. The boss was eating breakfast, eggs over easy, buttered toast, black coffee, reading the morning paper, like any other legitimate businessman. He looked up, saw Marty covered in blood, and went still as stone. "Where are the others?" Dutch asked quietly. Marty couldn't speak at first, just shook his head like a broken toy. "Where are my men?" Dutch's voice was ice. "Dead," Marty whispered. "All of them. He let me live." Dutch stood slowly, his chair scraping against the floor like nails on a chalkboard. "He what?" "He let me live to give you a message." The entire room went silent. Dutch's lieutenants, accountants, bodyguards, everyone stopped breathing, waiting. "What message?" Dutch's voice could have frozen hell. Marty reached into his jacket with trembling fingers. Dutch's men reached for their guns, but Marty pulled out something that made them all freeze. A single playing card. The ace of spades covered in blood. He placed it on the table in front of Dutch like an offering to a dark god. He said to tell you Harlem's not for sale, and if you send more men, send more cards. He is collecting a deck. Dutch Schultz stared at that bloody card for a long time. His men waited for the explosion, waited for Dutch to unleash hell, to send 50 men to burn Harlem to ash and bone. Instead, Dutch picked up the card, studied it like it contained the secrets of the universe, then smiled, not with happiness, with resignation. "He has got balls," Dutch said quietly. "I'll give him that." "Boss," one of his lieutenants started, "we can't let this." Dutch held up his hand. "You know what it costs to go to war with someone who is not afraid to die, someone who is smarter than you, someone who has an entire neighborhood behind him?" He shook his head slowly. "It costs everything. And for what? Numbers, money. There is easier money." He dropped the card into the ashtray, struck a match, and lit it on fire. "We're done in Harlem. Let Bumpy Johnson have it." The decision shocked everyone in that room. Dutch Schultz, the man who'd gone to war with Lucky Luciano, who'd killed his own partners for showing weakness, who never backed down from anything, was backing down, but Dutch understood something his men didn't. Bumpy Johnson had just proven he wasn't just another street tough. He was a force of nature, a man willing to die for his principles. And men like that, you don't fight them. You either kill them, or you respect them enough to leave them alone. Dutch couldn't kill him, so he chose respect. Years later, a reporter tracked down one of the Cotton Club's old employees and asked what really happened that night. The old man smiled like he was sharing state secrets. "You want the truth." Bumpy wasn't alone. He had 4 guys upstairs the whole time. They locked the basement door from the outside once Dutch's men went down, trapped them like rats. Whether that is truth or legend, nobody knows for sure. What we do know is that after the 14th of February, 1933, Dutch Schultz never sent another man to Harlem. Bumpy Johnson became the undisputed king of Harlem's underworld. And that ace of spades. Bumpy kept it, framed it, hung it in his office above Small's Paradise as a reminder that respect isn't given. It is taken. The 14th of February, 1933. 12 men walked into a basement, 1 crawled out. And Harlem was never the same.